Hello, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And my guest tonight he's a filmmaker, an actor, and a writer, Johnny Catalano.
Catalano, whatever you want to do.
Hey, I did my best, man.
I love it. I mean, I always I've heard worse. Trust me, I've heard way worse.
Well, at least I got it close enough where it sounds professional.
It does. It sounds professional. It's got a flow to it. It's all good.
All right. Let's get into this. In February of 2023, you're going to do a showcase film festival. Tell me a little bit about that.
That is correct. And just thanks for having me, Robin. It's a pleasure to be on here. In February, I have a film festival in Miamisburg, Ohio. For anyone listening that's kind of like in that region of the world, kind of in between Dayton and Cincy. It's at this beautiful theater called the Plaza Theater, the historic Plaza Theater in Miamisburg, Ohio. And it's going to showcase 10 films from around Ohio, and I have one that is from Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I know a friend from my master's program.
Okay.
This is his very first short film.
Nice.
And it's really good. Well, it's not completed, but I was there for the production, and I saw. I've seen stills. I've seen kind of like the production as it's going along, and it's looking really good. I'm really excited to actually kind of see it, but it's gonna be fun to see that with everybody from kind of like my master's program and stuff like that. So that will be, it's called A Mother's Love, but that's the only one that's outside of the state. I wanted to focus primarily on filmmakers that are in Ohio, because there is a large pool of filmmakers in Ohio to pick from, and I wanted it to be within driving distance, I suppose, for like those filmmakers who've never seen their film on the big screen, and really want to be able to see their films on the big screen. And first and foremost, the films are of enormous quality. So I kind of curated the films. They sent them to me. I viewed them, for exception for the Pittsburgh one, and they're incredible on a technical level and also just kind of a thematic level. And the filmmakers certainly have like a voice, a distinct kind of feeling to their films and who they are as artists. And it's just going to be a really fun night of kind of celebrating film around us, like regional film, local film, and kind of the auteurs that are in the state of Ohio, because you can watch films from, obviously all over the world on streaming, and you can watch all types of films, at the theater and the like. But I think it's really important to show out and support local films, because they are being made. And I think one of the big issues I feel with the general public is just they don't realize that there are films being made necessarily in Ohio. They think like, oh, to be a filmmaker, you have to go off to these far off places like LA or New York. And, there's no film market here. You can't make films here. You can't make a living at being a filmmaker here. Well, I just kind of want to dispel that notion and with this festival, and have people realize, this is very much a place you could be a filmmaker. You could make a living as a filmmaker. I know several who are doing just that, and so that's kind of the goal of this festival. And this is the inaugural festival for it's called the Catalano Film Festival, and it's a festival I'd like to have once a year. And obviously, this is the inaugural one, so it's kind of starting small with kind of the Ohio-based filmmakers. But as time goes on, my goal is to become a festival that people submit to from around the world, and people come to annually, say February every year. They come to Miamisburg, Ohio, and that's kind of like a thing that happens from here on out. Just kind of like Sundance. It began and out west in a town that nobody really had any idea even existed. But
yeah,
but honestly, like, it's brought so much industry and arts to that region of the world. And it's something that people look forward to annually. And that probably started off small, just like every other festival. So, but this one, I mean, I want it to be very big. I want it to sell out. Like, that's the goal. And there's 292 seats, and ticket sales December 16th. So, if you want to get a seat, it's better, to get them earlier than later, because I have no idea. I'm sending out like promo codes in the next around kind of like the holiday season and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people are going to show out for it. Not just like the filmmakers and the actors and kind of the people involved in the films, but outside audiences that just want to see films that they would not see otherwise, if not just coming to that festival. I mean, who's going to be able to see some of the shorts from around the area if they're not shown on the big screen? It's better to show them on the big screen, have people come out for them, than just them fall to, I guess, obscurity.
Hey, that's pretty good. I mean, there's been a lot of filming around here in Ohio, of course, especially Cincinnati. You got some big Hollywood players that come into Cincinnati a lot too. So it's kind of, and it's also kind of neat to see these different film festivals and local, filmmakers in Ohio making a name for themselves, where they're able to, show their shorts or feature length film at a theater on the big screen. I like indie films. Indie films are more original nowadays, and it seems like the filmmakers and actors who are a part of this put their heart and soul into it. I'm enjoying more indie films than I'm enjoying some of the mainstream films up in Hollywood. Don't get me wrong, there's some good Hollywood ones out there, but it just seems like, it's like recycled ideas. There's no original ideas. That's why I like watching indie films, more today, because you just don't know what's, really going on. But anyways, this is pretty cool. If anybody in my listeners in Ohio, you should check out these different film festivals. So, which is pretty cool. But anyways, let's Johnny. We lost connection a little bit. Hold on, I'm trying to get Johnny back. We kind of got the little connection cut back.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I think my Wi-Fi went out for some reason.
Yeah, I was talking to you when you went off. I was trying to connect back with you, so I don't know if you heard what I was saying. I was just, talking about, check out, local indie films in Ohio. So I was trying not to get the dead air. I mean, this...
What the heck happened there?
Yeah, and to my listeners, please forgive us. It was like a technical difficulty. And I was sitting there like lobbing on, trying to connect with you too. So it's probably because of the weather too. You know how Ohio has crazy weather.
Yeah. It's been like really windy and rainy the past few days. It's been very kind of like gloomy and depressing. You feel like you're living in, London or something. But
all right, let's get back into this. Okay,
let's get back into it.
Yeah, we talked about your festival. Tell me some of the projects you're doing right now that you can really share.
Yeah, so the projects I'm working on right now range. So I'm in production for, or pre-production, I should say, for a short film called Tom and Mary. It's kind of a love story between two aging an aging couple. So they're in their early 60s, and they're kind of trying to navigate what that means and kind of who they are in their relationship. But it's got a very certain type of style and it's a simple story told differently, I suppose. And that's really kind of the focus of, I guess, my type of filmmaking. I don't really have very heavy plots typically. I'm kind of more about creating an atmosphere, a type of mood, or just a type of feeling. Making a film on a very emotional level rather than, I guess, intellectual. At least that's what I'm trying to do. It could be working, it could be not. But that's the short film. And then I've been in pre-production for almost a year now on my first feature film, Sunday Dinner, which is basically a film, again, simple sort of premise, a con man type person, owes a lot of people a lot of money, so he has to go around town in his small Ohio town and try to get money from these old flames. The old flames kind of, turn him away, so he has to go to his sister, who he's sort of estranged by, and she lives in a trailer park, and they're kind of salt of the earth type family, and she's not happy about this, and she has a special guest coming to dinner, as the IMDb or the synopsis says.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the bomb under the table type scenario that unfolds there. So that's kind of that's going to be my first feature.
Nice.
And it definitely has like you were talking about earlier, kind of an indie flavor, very much kind of that one setting for the most part type film, and kind of relying more on performance, character, and style rather than, I guess, like big, tentpole effects or anything like that, because I think what you were saying earlier before we got cut off.
Yeah, because like I said, we're live, so so I can't edit this. I mean, like when we got cut off, you got me good. I was just sitting there trying to keep the audience like
keep it alive.
Yeah, alive. I'm like this. I'm like, what should I say now when I'm trying to get them back? But yeah. But that's your first feature-length film. That sounds pretty cool. I would love to see that. It seems like it has a great premise to it.
I'm glad you're saying that. I think that's definitely one of those stories, because like there's certain stories you could tell, I guess, in like one sentence, two sentences, be like, this is about whatever. This is about whatever. But that was definitely a story that I just kind of sat down and I wrote just one day. And I didn't really have – I had like a first scene in my head where, somebody crashes into this dude's apartments and trashes it and is like, you owe me money, like, blah, blah. Like, you better – if you don't come back with it until the – if you don't come back with it in the morning, there's hell to pay. So I had that in my head, and I'm like, okay, well, where does it go from here? And then it was just one of those. That's how I write. Typically, I like to surprise myself. I don't outline. I don't break scenes down or do any of that type of stuff. To the chagrin of probably a lot of my master's professors, but I've never really. Done that, but I've always felt that's how I write. I most of my first film, I remember when I first showed it to people, Funeral for Furmansky last March. Yeah. Where people were like, I thought this was going to happen. I thought this was going to happen. And like, none of those things ended up happening. And I kind of liked that. I kind of liked how people weren't really sure what was going to come around the next corner, whether it be something that they, expected or didn't expect. I kind of like keeping people thinking a film might be one thing and then it becomes another thing. Like I've always kind of liked that about certain films. Like for instance, I don't know, like Blue Velvet is a great example. Like it, obviously David Lynch is, always in the bizarro world, but it kind of starts very white picket fence America type deal. Then it just diverges into something completely dark and sinister and just something you wouldn't expect. So that's definitely what I've always kind of tried to impart on my own type of storytelling, and just surprise myself when I'm writing. Because, I feel like if I were to structure something out, I'd probably write something very boring. So I try to be like, okay, like, and plus I feel like it just comes out naturally that way too. Like if I'm writing a certain scene, it's almost like mathematical. Like, okay, if this happens in this scene, it makes sense if this happens in this scene. So for me, creatively, like thinking ahead like that just doesn't. It kind of like stalemates me almost. Like if you told me to sit down and like do a breakdown or something of my story before I even start writing it, I'd probably never even write the story. I just have to like kind of start writing it, and then I'm like, okay, it's a thing now. I got to see where this goes. I got to see where this leads.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like to watch a good movie where I get invested into it with the story, the characters, the music. If you have that type of recipe in your film, I'm hooked, And I'm also a big fan of cinematography. I love cinematography in films, how shoot like certain angles, certain scenes.
Yeah.
To really make that movie and characters and everything that you're watching just pop right off the screen.
I totally agree with you, and you brought up two things that I find to be very important in film, and I almost find to be if a film doesn't have this, I tend to not be as intrigued by it, which is music. That is completely like idiosyncratic to the film.
Yes.
And then the image. I've become like obsessed with the image within a film. I almost to the degree where like my movies going forward, I wanted them to be moving photographs. I want them to be literally beautiful or interesting photographs. That are just moving. You know what I mean? I want them to be painterly. I want them to be something to behold rather than just like shot like maybe like a TV show or something. Like I want it to be very compelling with the mise en scène and the color, what is in the frame, what is out of the frame.
Yep.
How it's composed. Like that stuff's have become like very, very interesting to me. Because my first film
Same here.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's to me what cinema is.
I think so.
Because like TV is a writer's medium. I've seen TV shows that can be very cinematic and look great, but I think for the most part, I think what cinema has to offer today is kind of the art of the frame, the art of the image.
Yeah.
Rather than, I guess, like obviously. A film can be a writer's medium, but I like when films do things visually interesting. I saw like there's movies I even like. Like I saw the Menu recently, and I'm not gonna. It was really good.
How was it? That's on my list. I didn't get a chance to see it. I've heard good things about it.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend. It was a great script. I thought it was a really interesting movie. And it actually surprised me, and I thought it was going to be something else, and it ended up being something different, which I appreciate. But in that same vein, I felt like it wasn't doing necessarily anything super interesting visually. It was shot a lot like a TV show. I guess if I had to,
when you said TV show, was it more like a regular TV show, or did it kind of remind you like how they film it, like if it was like some type of a reality type of style?
No, the best way I could say is like it almost seemed like a show on. The way it was shot was very coverage based. I think, like where it's get this angle, get this angle, get this angle, get
Yeah,
this
I
angle.
see
Kind of
what
like
you're
telling that story like very economically, methodically, rather than I think like what I like about cinema is kind of the painterly type eye of a true filmmaker, like a Kubrick or like one of my favorite films is Buffalo '66 by Vincent Gallo, and I just think the way he composed that film and the shots and the color and the textures and all that stuff is to me like incredibly influential. That's like kind of my angle as a filmmaker, and just making something visually interesting, rather than like I love I think I was talking to somebody about this the other day where they were talking about Kubrick and stuff like that, and he wasn't a fan of Kubrick, and I am. And we were just having that typical like film nerd discussion.
Yeah.
And he was going down the line of saying like, I'm not really a huge fan of him because, he's more about mood and atmosphere. He's more about the music of film. He's a musical, not like musical literally, but sort of, but like musical more like he wants to invoke an emotion that you can't describe that is inside of you. Whereas the person I'm talking to is also a filmmaker, was saying he's a storyteller type filmmaker. He likes to tell a story straightforward. And we were having that whole discussion and yeah, I think that is how I see cinema. I see it as a very musical thing. I see it as something that, should work as music. It should make you feel like when you watch The Shining, you feel a certain way. Yeah. That you don't even know. It's just making you feel so weird. It's like almost like an out of body experience. And some of my favorite films are like that. They just have that really out of body kind of like I feel something in this film. I want to describe it because I feel like that might cheapen how I feel about it. But it's just something that is just indescribable. And yeah, I could be just going off on a tangent, but
I know what you're saying. Exactly.
I've like kind of like I love like the storyteller type filmmakers like Clint Eastwood or whoever that are just like, let me tell a story as efficiently as possible. There's something to be said about that type of filmmaking, but I think the type of filmmaking I want to follow is that very, trying to invoke an emotion through style and form rather than kind of like just telling. I'm not really, as I was saying earlier, plot based. I don't really care too much about plot. I'm not trying to write the next Inception or something. Like my stuff's very simple, and what I do is I try to expand on whatever ideas are in the script, in the narrative, within the characters, through the form and the style, whether that be music or color or whatever it may be.
So, your filmmaking, what type of genre of filmmaking are you into? Are you into a variety, or are you more into more like drama, or what's your style of filmmaking that you're doing?
So the style of filmmaking that I'm doing, I suppose, thus far is kind of black comedies. Okay. Is how I would describe them. But I'm into, as just like a film lover, just everything. I love all genres. I love horror. I love drama. I love my favorite genre of all time. If you talk to me more than 10 minutes, is westerns. Westerns are like what I grew up with, and I just love them to death. And one of my dreams is to make a western one day or more, if all works out. But I just love all types of films. I love thrillers. I love war films. Just any. I just love film. Whatever it may be. It doesn't really matter. I just love the craft. I love filmmaking. But it's kind of strange because like some of my favorite filmmakers probably are like within the horror genre, whether that be like Wes Craven or John Carpenter or Sam Raimi or any of those types of dudes. Like they're just kind of people I really admire. And yeah, I just love their filmmaking. So.
Since you do like more like dark comedies type of style, and hopefully you do a Western that's cool. I love Westerns too. I'm a big fan of the spaghetti Westerns, the real violent.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The Italian ones. Have you ever thought about maybe sometime in the near future do a horror film?
I absolutely have. I'm actually in the midst of writing on spec. Just I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as like a straight up horror, but it's a thriller, absolutely. And it's I don't even know in what. I don't know if you're familiar with like sort of the work of Michael Haneke or any of those types of filmmakers, but kind of just that eerie, disturbing film that, you know, is almost too real to be like, oh, it's not. I guess to compare it, it's almost. It's not as gruesome as this, but I guess like almost like a Wes Craven's like Last House on the Left, or just something that's, you know, kind of eerily disturbing and makes you kind of your skin crawl type deal.
Hey, those are the best kinds. The ones that can like manipulate your head, what you just said, and you know, oh, those are the best kinds. You know, like I like thrillers too. I like thriller horror too. I mean.
Yes,
thriller horror will always keep you guessing, keeps you on your feet, and you're like, whoa, you know. It's
right, yeah. It's definitely that, because I don't know if I could ever write like a supernatural horror, because that's just not what like scares me, I guess. And I think as if you're going to write a horror thing, you have to write something that scares you. Like you have to think, you know, what really scares me about life? Like what about life like actually like terrifies me? And for me, that's murder. That's small scale, like everyday stuff that just happens.
Hey, that's horror. Basis. That's horror.
Absolutely, it's the horror of life. You know, that's like kind of like what I feel I'm comfortable writing. I feel it would be like dishonest of me to write a Poltergeist or something like that. Like, yeah, like I definitely feel like I'm more of like, what scares me is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or, you know, something like that. Is real. Feels real. It feels immediate. You know, it could happen.
I think so too. So when you're not writing or filming all that great stuff in your craft, learning every day and mastering your craft, what do you enjoy outside of that? Do you have like certain things that you love as well besides filmmaking?
Yeah, that's a great question, and usually I don't get asked that because it's always kind of like about film. So that's a great question. Well, obviously, I love watching movies. I won't stay on this too long because I want to probably talk about stuff that doesn't relate to film. But yeah, I mean, just like I love watching movies. Always have. That's why I want to do this. That's why I want to be a filmmaker. So it always starts with kind of that love of filmmaking. I'm really into film history and just history in general. I've always loved history. I can watch documentaries, read about history, just. It's always been I was never a good student, but I was always a good student of history just because I felt like it was kind of like probably falls into the line of wanting to tell stories in a way. Like history is just one big story, you know, there's characters, there's stuff you can kind of like grasp onto and be like, oh, this guy's interesting. I want to learn everything about him that I possibly can. So then, you know, I kind of go down those roles. And I love food. I'm a big, like, I'm not good at cooking, but I'm good at eating and ingesting food and drink. So I'm big into food, just culinary stuff. Coffee is, like, the greatest thing ever created in my mind. I can drink it. I wish I could drink it all day. I don't think my body can take it, but I have to, like, draw the line at a certain point. But I love coffee, and just all types of food. I love traveling. I've been to China and Europe and I just, it's every time I travel somewhere, it always gives me, it's such a beautiful thing to do as a creative. I think, like, if you're a creative at all, I think traveling is almost necessary, because it kind of expands your world. Your world may be, suburban Ohio, because that's what you know at the time, and then you go to, like, Venice or something like that, and you're like, holy shit, like there's a whole world out here. So that is beautiful, and I think that traveling is you learn about other people's culture, and it's kind of illuminating. So I love doing that, and I mean, that's pretty much like my main interests in the life is like culture, history, movies, and music. Anything else, and a lot of people could attest to this, I have a hard time getting into. Like, if it's anything like engineer based or anything like that, I'm like, turn my brain off. I don't. If it's like anything to do with like the arts or like culture, I'm into it. I love it. But if it's anything not that, it's I have a really, really hard time getting into it. Like almost probably impossible to get into it. But I guess those are just my things, though.
All right. So where can everybody find you on social media to see what you're doing next? And also, of course, your festival in February of 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Never got into Twitter. Don't ask me why, but it's probably a good thing. But I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Johnny Catalano Film on Instagram. And my company's Instagram page is Catalano Film Co. And same with my Facebook, it's Catalano Film Co. if you want anything to do with kind of my film work and the festival. And the event is up on Eventbrite, or Eventbrite, whatever you want to call it. But the page is published, but tickets go on sale December 16th. So just look up Catalano Film Festival or Johnny Catalano's Catalano Film Festival. You'll be able to buy tickets December 16th. And just kind of, if you want to look out for promo codes, make sure you follow me on either Facebook or Instagram, because that's how I'm going to share them. And those promo codes are going to be like half off tickets. Pretty much. And this is going to be like a really cool and big event. There's going to be merchandise sold. There's cookies, Catalano Film Co. cookies. So you don't want to miss out on those. It's just going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be done up kind of like a classical film concert, or classical music concert, which kind of starts with overture and with an intermission, and kind of just, end it out with a big crescendo. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you're at all interested in kind of seeing, small budget, but very well made, very well crafted films. And I guess, like, one more thing I'd like to add with, like, the film festival and everything is that, like, I think when people hear, like, oh, they're small budget, like, oh, they're probably not, whatever. But the reality, I think, is that a lot of great stuff comes with constraints. And I think that's where real artists are kind of carved out is like, we don't have the budgets of like Black Adam or like the bigger movies, but I think that what we lack maybe in budget, we make up for in heart and soul and just kind of our creativity. I mean, if you look at some of, Night of the Living Dead was made by a bunch of film friends in Pittsburgh who are making commercials. So it's just, I feel like it's definitely something not to kind of like sleep on, I suppose, local film, because you never know when the next Night of the Living Dead will happen. You never know when the next Evil Dead will happen by these kind of like film friends who just wanted to make a good movie. And you never know if one's going to take off, And so that's kind of the mission behind my festival is really illuminating, I think, that fact that your filmmaker friend next door may be making films, on Netflix or Amazon here in the near future. So you never know.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Well, thank you, Robin, and this was a pleasure. And sorry for the Wi-Fi issue. I'll blame it on the wind.
Oh, hey, don't worry about it. I mean, stuff happens. I mean, when I go on live, there's a couple of times where I've had technical difficulties live too. But it's you can't control it. It's just technical stuff. So.
No, you can't, and that's one of the huge lessons of being an independent filmmaker as well, is learning to live with the technical difficulties.
All right, and everybody have a great week.